Okay, if you want, just a few seconds. Okay, we'll get the meeting underway in 1 minute from now, members. So members will get the meeting underway. The September meeting of the council, Falchiroy Vilig. Everybody's very welcome to the September council meeting. And you've got your agenda, of course, 15-item agenda. Prior till going into the full agenda, there's a couple of important things to do. First off, the very first thing that I would like to do in this meeting is to reflect on the passing of Johnny McLaughlin, Councillor Johnny McLaughlin, well known to many of us, and I have with me just his Requiem Mass booklet, lovely poem at the back of it. At the end of his round, an obvious reference to his boxing career, Johnny McLaughlin, and much loved in the Oma area, especially where he was very strong on welfare rights and all of that. He was a champion of people in respect of welfare rights for many years. And you could see the high regard he was held in by the attendants at his funeral, you know. So obviously our sympathy goes out to Johnny's loved ones. And at the end of some tributes that members may wish to pay, we will be conducting a minute's silence in line with our protocol. So Johnny was elected in the district electoral area of Oma Town for 30 years of his council service. And as I said there, he was a champion of people's rights, someone who always stood up for working families. In recent years, he continued to work tirelessly for his local community. And I would say that he was a household name in this area and further afield. So I offer our sincere condolences to Johnny's widow, Olive, and his children, Stephen, Amanda, Michelle, Geraldine, Yvonne, and John, and the wider family circle. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to look now for those members who wish to speak. And we do have 5 councillors online. So I'll be looking both for councillors online and councillors in the chamber. Already 3 in the chamber and Councillor Deehan online. So I'm going to go to Councillor Earl Thompson first.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, thank you for your tribute to former Councillor Johnny McLaughlin. I first knew Johnny when started working life at the age of 16 at Nestle factory in Oma. Johnny was our union representative at that stage, a union representative of the then Transport and General Workers Union. And he was, I suppose he was a hard taskmaster when people came down from several different roles to take on the unions. And he was well rounded in what he could do for the workers at that time. And Johnny fought hard at that stage, even in 1982, when there was 220 employees made redundant in the one day in August 1982. So that was my memory of Johnny, a hard negotiator. But unfortunately, it was the way things were moving at that stage. And in 1982, a lot of payoffs were happening right across the United Kingdom and across this island as well. So that was my first recollection of him. And then when I came onto council, I had known him all over the years, but then when I came onto council, I was sitting quite close to him. And in the old chamber here, the way it was done, and in the new chamber, he sat down in that corner where Councillor Gallant's sitting there now, and I was in the corner beside him, and was him and Councillor McLaughlin, who were sitting as independent councillors at that time, or Councillor McGowan, I should say, Paddy McGowan, and Councillor McLaughlin sitting as independent councillors at that time. So there was never a dull moment with the two guys, and Johnny always had something very, very good to say, and what a hard campaign, and no matter what he was fighting on. And so I want to pay tribute to Johnny, and I want to sympathise with, I know Olive as well, and I want to sympathise with Olive and the family circle at this time. Just one another thing about Johnny, he was a unique character, as well as you referred to him as a boxer, but he was also a unique character in the organisations he was involved with. I refer to the Royal British Legion, Fintona Branch. He's a very proud member of it, and was very, very prominent in Remembrance Sunday every year. He was also a member of the Irish National Foresters and probably the Gaelic Athletic Association as well. So he was a unique character in that sense. So I say I want to pass on my sympathy to Olive and the family this time, Chair.
Thank you, Errol. Corrier, Nagila Cole next. Go to Debbie Coyle next, and after that, I'll go to Josephine.
Thanks, Chair. On behalf of the Sinn Féin team, I'd like to send our condolences to Johnny's wife, children, wider family, and the community. I didn't actually know him myself, but I have learnt that as well as being a councillor, Johnny was for many years committed to helping others, especially our more vulnerable citizens, seeking help and support when they needed to claim benefits and things like that. And as we know, it's a very complicated system, and so many people do need that help, and he was committed to giving that help to the people. So he, I'm sure, as well as being missed by his family, is going to be missed by the whole community.
Thank you, Debbie. Go to Councillor Deehan now.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to thank you in particular for giving us the opportunity of paying tribute to the late Councillor Johnny McLaughlin. I want to take this opportunity to express my sincere condolences to his wife Olive, his children and wider family circle, and indeed to all the community. I had the privilege of knowing the late Councillor McLaughlin over many years, and particularly during our time together, Chair in the Legacy Omagh District Council. Johnny was a man of many, many interests and many talents, but above all, he was committed to the welfare of his community. He was a much loved figure, very popular and very hardworking. And this was reflected in the fact that mandate after mandate, he was elected. So his contribution was massive. Many families benefited from his expertise and his knowledge of the system. When he retired from local politics, we kept in regular contact, and he was often in communication with me, requesting reports for his clients to enable them to get benefits. I had the opportunity of attending his wake, and those people with whom I spoke very, very fondly of Johnny. I had read in the paper about his retirement, and I was greatly saddened, Chair, to learn of his passing within such a short period of his retirement. But it was certainly a privilege for me to have known and worked with Johnny. And again, I want to offer my sincere condolences to his family, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Josephine. Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. And likewise, I would like to pay tribute to Councillor McLaughlin following his very sad loss, and indeed express my commiserations and sympathies to his family and his loved ones during what must be an extraordinarily difficult time. I mean, Johnny was, without a doubt, a fervent champion for social justice and an opponent of inequality wherever it could be found within Omagh and further afield. And I suppose in some respects you can almost say he's also a very strong champion of young people, because like Councillor Thompson, I met Johnny for the first time whenever I was 16 during a Democracy Week event in the CBS, whenever he would have been one of the councillors that would have engaged with young people from the Omagh area. But I suppose the first time I had the opportunity to work with him in a political sense would have been 2012, 2013, whenever himself, myself, Ross Hussey and then Councillor Chris Smith would have been part of a cross-party delegation to Stormont in support of palliative care services within the Omagh area. And at that time, he would have been, I suppose, nearing the conclusion of his council career, but he was still absolutely fervent and enthusiastic and dedicated to serving people, and that never really stopped. And I suppose if there would be a couple of observations I would make, it's that over 3 decades of elected service is an absolutely extraordinary achievement, and it speaks to a respect within your community that is paralleled by very few. And I think that that's a tribute to the character that he had as a person. And the second observation I would make is that even whenever he wasn't in elected politics and he wasn't sitting in this chamber speaking on behalf of his constituents, he never really found it within himself to retire. He was just one of those people who was constantly dedicated to working on behalf of the people in this community, serving to protect their rights and to stand up for their interest and to do everything that he could to promote their social welfare. And so it's an enormously sad time that we have lost somebody who was an absolute spark and champion for the Omagh area and for Tyrone. And on behalf of Alliance, I pay tribute to his life and to his family in this difficult time.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie. Sorry. Sorry, Councillor Warrington's taking it. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I asked my colleague if he wanted to speak on it,
Yeah.
because I obviously didn't know
Yeah.
the gentleman, but like all deaths, it's sad, and certainly from our group, and I would like to send condolences to his wife and immediate family. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Me and Alan Rennie and Johnny McLaughlin had a wild crack one time in the Galloway Inn, but we can't really go into that, Alan. Okay. And Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, and on behalf of the SDLP, I'd like to pass on our condolences to the late Councillor Johnny McLaughlin's wife Olive, his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren as well. He was, of course, an SDLP councillor for a time, and whilst I didn't know Johnny myself, some of the stories from those who know him, including in this chamber here tonight, tell you a great deal about the character of the man. A councillor for 30 years is no mean feat. That takes a lot. And he was very obviously a tireless community champion. And importantly, he worked incredibly hard for those most in need. He dedicated his life to it. And in terms of his life, he obviously lived a very rich life through his union work, his politics, and in sport as well. And of course, in his family life too. And of course, Omagh's lost a huge character who's part of the town and part of the fabric of the town. And finally, just to pay tribute to Johnny and his many years of work contributing to the community, and the condolences to the family, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think at this point then we'll conduct our minute silence, and we'll do that as of now. Thank you. So proceed now. Next thing I would like to do is I would like to formally welcome our new councillor, recently co-opted, Rory Little, representing the Mid-Tyrone DEA. So I want to formally welcome Rory. And in the same breath, I want to remark on the recent resignation of two councillors. Obviously, Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald, when Anne-Marie stood down, that began a process where Rory was appointed and has arrived on the scene now as a councillor. And then more recently, again, the resignation of Keith Elliott of the Democratic Unionist Party. So I want to just reiterate my welcome to Rory and to wish him well in his time as a councillor. And he's shown great enthusiasm in the first couple of days, which is great. And he's here this evening. And I'll just go to any member or grouping that would like to speak about Rory arriving on the scene now and Anne-Marie and Keith's resignation, all in the one area of conversation. I'll start with Councillor Coyle. Debbie.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's great to have Rory on board, and I'm looking forward to working with him over the next couple of years, or 18 months anyway, and hopefully another 4 years after that. But just to say, you know, Anne-Marie was a really important member of our team as well, so she will be missed. And I'm not sure, I only heard about Keith yesterday, so just to wish Keith all the best for whatever the future holds for him as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll go now to Councillor Thompson, and then I'll take Councillor Deehan online. But Councillor Thompson next.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I'll extend a warm welcome to Councillor Little. He's a hard act to follow. So you're very welcome, Councillor Little, to the chamber. And just with regard to Councillor Keith Elliott, I've worked with Keith since 2014 in this chamber and in the town hall, obviously, over the last 11 years. We were in the Shadow Council together and then in the Fermanagh District Council. Worked together quite closely for a long, long time. And as the years progressed, Keith got busier and busier. And then he took on the business of being a funeral director. And that takes its toll on everything. First of all, he stood down from his role as a crew commander in the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service some time ago. But it's got busier again, and he's put his whole life into basically doing what he's doing in his profession now. So I suppose he has had to commit himself to doing this, and that's the way it is. But from the point of view of the party, of the Democratic Unionist Party, we'll miss Keith dearly, and we wish him and his wife Flo and the family circle all the very best as he moves forward and progresses his relationship and with the wider community and his role as a funeral director. So well done, Keith. And just with regard to Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Fitzgerald was a time in this council before myself, I think about 3 years before me. She came in tragic circumstances with the death of her late father. So I want to pay tribute to Councillor Fitzgerald. We come from opposite ends of the spectrum, obviously, completely opposite ends of the spectrum. But I always found her very, very good to work with. And when she represented Oma Town, she was a good councillor as well. So I want to wish her and her family all the very best in the future as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Errol. And I go now to Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as an independent councillor, I want to extend a very warm welcome to Councillor Rory Little. You're very welcome, Councillor Little, and I do want to wish you the very best of luck in your new role as public representative. And I look forward to working with you in Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and I look forward to meeting you in person as well. I also want to pay tribute to our two outgoing councillors, Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald, whom I have known for many years from her time on Legacy Omagh District Council. And I also met her in a professional capacity in her role with the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service, and a very dedicated and committed and highly professional councillor she was, who worked hard for her community. Similarly, Councillor Keith Elliott, I want to thank Keith as well for his contribution over the years to our district council area, and I would wish both Anne-Marie and Keith all the best going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, to welcome Councillor Rory Little to the chamber, and obviously wish him luck in his new role. I hope he enjoys it as we all do, Chair. But just as well, just to say to the two outgoing councillors, obviously Anne-Marie, Councillor Fitzgerald, you know, she always added in a really constructive manner in the chamber, and you know, she was always up to have a chat, and she always was really welcoming and was great to talk to. And I think in her role in the ambulance service was that experience at times, because we obviously talk health a lot in this chamber, was really valuable. And obviously I wish her well in the next chapter of her life. And Keith, another fella, always up for a chat again, and whilst we may have disagreed politically on things from time to time, he was no doubt a hard worker, as Councillor Thompson has laid out all the many hats he wore in his time. And of course I wish him luck in his work and his role in the funeral director business. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thank you, and I'd like to add my voice to the comments that has been already said. I suppose Anne-Marie Fitzgerald over the years was very helpful to myself in her knowledge on certain issues, and I have to say I will miss her experience and her good humour. Councillor Keith Elliott always came across as a very pleasant chap, and I have to say, you know, I disagreed with him politically, but apart from that, I always seem to get on okay with Keith, and he'll be missed in the chamber as well. I suppose I'd have to say, with the two of them going, the kind of knocks my fallback position out, because when my blood pressure would go through the roof with some of the debates in here, I always could have depended on Anne-Marie to be there, you know, and then the fallback from that, if all went wrong, Keith was over there ready to jump in as well. So anyway, the best of luck to both of them. But and now to wish Rory the best of luck in his new position. Being a councillor isn't easy, as we all know. It comes with a lot of stress and that, but it can be a very rewarding job as well. So the best of luck, Rory, in the years to come.
Sir Victor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I can assure Councillor Green I'll try not to get his blood pressure up tonight. We'll agree to disagree tonight, just because of the first night back. Look, welcome to Councillor Little to the chamber. Obviously, it'll take a few weeks, few months maybe to blend in, but as somebody's now into their 12th year, you'll get there. As for the two previous councillors that have gone, well, obviously Anne-Marie was here from the very start of this super council, and would have worked quite closely with her because she was very health orientated on the health and social care committee, so obviously she'll be missed. And as for Keith, well, I've obviously known Keith a lot longer, long before we decided to become councillors, and so all the best with him. I know he's busy in what he does, and you know, it's hard to juggle everything and do this job right, because this job, being a councillor, can be very demanding at times, and you certainly need to be prepared or have to give it time, and that's difficult in holding down the job that he had. So thank you, Chair.
Okay. I go now to councillor Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair, and likewise on behalf of Alliance, I'd just like to welcome Councillor Diddle to this chamber. I can imagine there was quite a few happy heads in Killyclogher whenever the news came about, and I can imagine that this will be an enormously proud moment for your family, Rory. So very best of congratulations and good luck in the time ahead for the remainder of the mandate. I suppose I knew Councillor Fitzgerald for 6 years, and I think about half of that was the OMA STV count of 2019, as we ended up being the last people in Northern Ireland to get elected. But since then, I mean, I knew her to be somebody who was enormously professional, passionate, and obviously brought a huge amount of expertise from her professional life in the ambulance service. And certainly her contribution to this chamber will be much missed. And likewise, I always find Councillor Elliott to be somebody enormously professional, albeit somebody who actually was able to bring a sense of humour to this chamber on occasion, and I have no doubt that that will be missed as well. And I wish Councillor Elliott and Councillor Fitzgerald all the very best of luck in both of their futures. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And shortly I'll come now to Councillor Coyle, because Debbie's going to maybe outline the positions that Rory will be taking up from this point onwards. But just to conclude that, welcome, obviously, to Rory, our new councillor, and Keith and Anne-Marie. We've all had an opportunity to express our appreciation. And on Keith, from my own point of view, always found him very measured man, and diplomatic. I think the word everybody's using is busy. He's a very busy man. John, when you vacated the chair, you know, I said, I appreciate that you're tired after a difficult year, and I'm tired after 2 days. And then I turned to Keith and I said, we both can understand he's really busy. Whatever it is about him professionally, he had that aura about him, that he was flat to the mat. And then in relation to Anne-Marie, I found her a formidable councillor. But obviously, the maxim applies to Anne-Marie. If you want something done, ask a busy person. You know, that would be the type of Anne-Marie. And then finally, Anne-Marie's my first cousin. You probably all knew that, but Anne-Marie's mother, Patricia, is my father's sister, you know. And I was pleased then when Errol made reference to the late Mickey McInnesby, Anne-Marie's father, who died tragically in a farming accident, if you call it that. So I'll leave it at that. And I'll go now to Councillor Coyle, who will explain to us the positions that Rory will be taking up.
Thanks, Chair. Rory will be replacing Catherine Kelly on environmental services, and hopefully attend the meeting tomorrow. He'll also be sitting on the Tullybar landfill site joint management committee, the grant aid panel, and the health and social care services committee. I think that's all that Anne-Marie was on when I checked today, but if there is any difference, Alison, if you can let me know, but I did double check, so that should be it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, just a couple of other items, Ned, before we go into the agenda proper. I just want to outline that I envisage writing to Paul Deeds and Lee Reynolds, recently appointed, or soon to be appointed maybe, in their various commissioner roles to do with the Ulster Scots tradition identity and the Irish language commissioner. As councils, as local government authority, would want to be engaging with both as soon as possible, you know, and upon completion or confirmation of their appointment, that'll be going. And then some of us had an engagement with the Rare Diseases Partnership recently, and myself and Shirley were able to attend the establishment of a branch here in Omagh of the Rare Diseases Partnership, a local branch. And again, I would like the topic of rare diseases, how they're diagnosed, is there a strategy, is there an action plan, is there resource budget available to help people who report into the system or who are reported into the system with rare diseases. So that would be the agenda typically of the rare disease partnership that we are supporting. And we'll deal with that in another time, but just to mention that happened, and myself and Shirley both attended the formation of the local group. And finally, I would like to give this some profile. You'll see on your desks, regional business advice clinic. And I might ask Sinead to comment on this after I finish my wee piece, Sinead. So tomorrow, Wednesday, the 3rd of September evening, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And next Wednesday, the 10th of September. So tomorrow evening, it's in Omagh. Next Wednesday, it's in Enniskillen. And this has already been to Lisnaskea and Carrickmore, which will mean that 4 DEAs will have been reached and the remaining ones will be reached. But it's a regional business advice clinic, which has the input of Invest NI, the council, the college, and Intertrade Ireland. And I would invite every councillor to make even one contact tomorrow with a business, encouraging them to attend these clinics. Omagh tomorrow evening, Enniskillen next week. But I think if we all tried to contact even one business who might benefit from advice or support, it would be a useful exercise. Sinead, I want to bring you into play.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Exactly as you've said, the clinic tomorrow evening is the Omagh, I suppose, clinic. But I suppose it's just important to note that you don't doesn't matter what area of the district you're from. You know, if you're from another DEA, another area, to come along and attend. And then, as you've said, Chair, the next one is on in Enniskillen in the workhouse. It's next Wednesday evening then. I think the clinics are probably, I think they're a pilot for us and for Invest NI Southwest College and Intertrade Ireland. They're a really significant opportunity to bring all the partners together, have everyone in the same space. And I think for anyone who has come to the 2 clinics that have already happened in Carrickmore and Lisnaskea, the feedback has been really, really positive. And I suppose members will also notice that we've moved the timing of the clinic now to the evening time. I suppose in the hope that will maybe suit businesses better. So, like I've said, I think it really is an important opportunity, and if businesses can avail of it, we have promoted them on social media. You'll see them on our Facebook page, on LinkedIn, and if any members have any questions about them, I'm happy to take those.
Okay, thanks very much, Sinead. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to deal with Debbie. If I can just have your attention for apologies here, you're going to be first. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. The only apology I have is Councillor Patrick Withers.
Okay. And I go now to Victor.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Roy Crawford, and I think Councillor Irvine's online.
He is indeed.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Robinson.
No apologies, Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Cannon's online as far as I know.
Okay, there indeed. And Adam would be next in my sequence here. Oh, I see if Adam's okay. I'll go now to Councillor McNulty.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Glenn Campbell will be running late, but he will be here.
Okay, thank you. Stephen's okay and Josephine's okay. Okay. So that's the apologies. Next item on our agenda, paper A, is to confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 24th of July. That is effectively the August meeting at the end of July, the way it's described. So it's now, that would be 23 pages for accuracy only. Okay. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, 5. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to point out on page 5, 4.6, it says Lisnaskea mini roundabout, but it's actually talking about the Colnagard entrance to the Colnagard estate in Omagh.
Okay. Alison will explain, for I was curious about that too.
Okay. No, so Chair, while the heading is Lisnaskea, that was where the matter was raised in the discussion. So the discussion had actually been in the first instance about the safety concerns on the roundabout at Lisnaskea. And then from that, it developed into other roundabout related issues. So that would be just the generic heading, if that's
Thank you.
okay.
I understand that too now. So page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, 13, 14 and 15 for accuracy, 16 and 17, 18 and 19, 20 and 21, 22 and 23. Now I need a proposer. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Warrington has proposed and Councillor John Feely has seconded. And agreed, members, thank you. So we're now at the stage of the meeting where we take declarations of interest. And Alison, maybe you'd explain declarations of interest even for Councillor Little's benefit. You know, what are we doing now in the meeting?
Certainly, Chair. So it's I wasn't ready for that one, but
Well,
it was
I mean, you had an earn on previous.
I know, but there you go. So, no, Chair, it's an opportunity for members to register an interest. It would be either a pecuniary interest, which is a financial interest, so for example, on behalf of an employer, or if you have a decision-making role within an organisation and those matters are before the council for a decision, there is an opportunity now for a member to declare their interest. Generally, when a member declares an interest, they then wouldn't speak on the matter or wouldn't vote on it, and usually members leave for the duration of the item.
Okay. You have no declarations yourself? No. Okay. Okay. If there aren't any, I'll go now to Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair, and it's primarily various items of correspondence. So it's 4.5, item 4.11, 4.7, item 13.7, and 4.10, item 24.3.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's declarations of interest. We move now to matters arising from the council meeting of the 24th of July. And we've adopted the accuracy of those minutes. So I'll go again till page 1. Okay. And just on page 1, let it be known that on Friday, the 1st of August, myself and the Chief Executive, we met with Kerry Flood, the interim Chief Executive Officer of Women's Aid. And the main theme probably of that meeting was that rural areas such as this council area have a special case in terms of rurality for special focus and more resources, and that we need to be making that case constantly to government and government departments. And it refers not least to the matter of violence against women and girls. So I go now to Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm delighted that you raised this as an issue here in the Chamber. But I think it's incumbent on us to keep this highlighted and to seek an opportunity for any resources that we can at every given opportunity. But can I relay to the Chamber that I had cause to contact the office in Enniskillen today, and due to budget constraints, they are not able to return a call for a week. Now, I think that is shameful in this rural area, that there is not more budget available to allow an office to provide obviously the much needed and in high demand service that is required in this rural area. And I think that points to something drastically wrong in the funded model.
Okay. I'll just look around the room. Just to further tease that out, Thomas, would you have any proposal in mind? You know, like, for example, in the meeting with Kerry Flood, she would have said things like the housing executive are supportive, you know, as an agency. Department for Communities might be the most responsive department, but the cross-cutting nature of this, I think we've been surprised and disappointed in the past that other departments kick funding for these services into touch. But after you make your suggestions, Thomas, I'll ask Alison to comment on that meeting as well. Okay.
Chair, yes. Obviously, I make the suggestion that, as in so many cases, this piecemeal funding is not a way forward, and obviously can't be relied upon to sustain the service on an ongoing basis that caters for the needs of people. And I would suggest that, as you have mentioned there, Chair, that there is a request that there is a cross-departmental approach to providing funding for citizens' advice for Women's Aid to be able to provide services. You know, it is that important that we have these services that can provide the much needed service that we need.
Okay, thank you. We're going now to Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. It's an absolute disgrace that anybody has to wait on a phone call when they live their life on eggshells and quite often in danger. So I second Thomas's proposal, and I'm also proposing that we work with Women's Aid. I've also met Kerry, spoken to Kerry, and I think, you know, with the need in the community to have more knowledge and understanding around the issue of domestic violence and abuse, there needs to be a lot more work done on the ground within communities, centres and community groups and stuff like that. And I know we were talking about, you know, a programme of work for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence that starts in November, at the end of November, and it finishes on the 10th of December, Human Rights Day. And if we can work with Women's Aid to produce a good plan of work over that, with the PCSP maybe as well included in that, because I think it just really is needed on the ground, because it doesn't matter how much you put into the organisation, unless we actually can do something to change the attitude of everybody really towards domestic violence and abuse, then we're fighting a losing battle. They do such good work, and they're trying to get into schools and colleges. And to hear today that they can't return a phone call is just sounds a bit of a backward step, really, because I know the workers are so committed, and Kerry is so committed to that work and to getting the message out to everybody. So if we can do a little piece of work around that as well, maybe look at that.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether Thomas there mentioned it on his contribution or not, but I suppose all the departments are involved with this one way or another. As Thomas said, it's a cross-cutting issue. I suppose particularly the Department of Agriculture, DERA, as the department that looks after rural, supposed to be the rural side of things. I suppose some funding from them to this type of thing would be very, very helpful. And I'm just wondering, would it be a good idea to write to them in particular and ask them and point out the problems that is particularly rural problem, access to service and distance from service and all in rural areas, and it's up to them. I think they would have a responsibility to cover things like that.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in and support all the comments made so far on this issue, and I'd like to second Debbie's proposal also about working with a programme with Women's Aid, and just saying how important this is. And I'm speaking from, I represent Maguire's Bridge that has had shockingly 2 domestic murders in less than 10 years in a very, very small rural village. So the need for support, awareness, and the need for this council to work as much as we can and to lobby for funding as much as we can to try our best as a community to prevent these horrific and upsetting situations with women And especially as everyone's saying, we are the most rural district in the north. And I'm not an expert, but I'm sure there's got to be some factor about the rural isolation on these cases. I don't know. But I'd just like to, second Debbie's proposal and support all the comments so far, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Alison, if you can reply, please.
Yes, Chair, thank you. And maybe just to pick up on a few of members' comments as well. So I think it's worth noting, Chair, that Kerry was also very appreciative of the council's support and ongoing support, both the council itself as well as with PCSP. A couple, and maybe just to pick up on Councillor Green's comments, my recollection, I think it may have been when Michelle Gildernew actually was Agriculture Minister, that funding was put in for a support programme in and around raising awareness of domestic violence in rural settings. I don't think that funding was renewed or continued, but it's certainly something we can check. The couple of maybe elements, Chair, that members might want us to reflect in more detail in the letter. You'll be aware that the council received an allocation from the Executive Office of Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, a funding pot for that, which was certainly welcomed. And indeed, we do have delivery partners both with Oma Women's Aid and Fermanagh Women's Aid, and I know John has provided details on that to you previously, and we can bring some more work. But crucially, that funding was allocated on a population basis. So rural was again not considered. And I think certainly something we have had, obviously the recent instance in Maguire's Bridge, but there has been a history of domestic murders and violence across the district that could certainly be reflected. And I think we would maybe wish to again emphasise that funding should not be population based. The second element is that very often, and mindful members will be particularly aware of the needs of rural communities, what could be needed in a scenario where perhaps a victim doesn't have access to transport, maybe availability of funds for a taxi or similar means of escape. The way most of the funding streams are construed, it's almost impossible for that funding to be provided. So I think there does have to be a recognition of the people we're working with here and the need for there to be much greater flexibility on how the money is utilised, which could be a suggestion. And finally, Chair, just in terms of the cross-cutting or, cross-government funding, I think your reflection is accurate in terms of the DFC support. I think there is maybe some limited funding from the Department of Health, but I think limited from Justice. So it might just be worth within that letter seeking a formal position from each of the government departments on the funding over maybe the last 5 years that have been allocated to, I suppose, women's aid locally. You could certainly get it beyond that, or what plans they have to be able to support those services. And then separately, Chair, just specifically to the Executive Office, I think it is now time to say that we have, again, regrettably, evidence as to why a population base for funding is not an appropriate criterion.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, various proposals, various suggestions, and you made the first proposal.
Yes, Chair, I just want to apologise to the Chamber and correct something that I did say, was that it wasn't the Women's Aid that couldn't return the call in a week. It was the CAB, it was the Citizens Advice Office that couldn't return. Well, notwithstanding that, I agree with all the comments.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. And Councillor Coyle, final comment on this?
Yeah, well, I'm very glad that it wasn't Women's Aid. So that's a good piece of news. But I absolutely agree with you, Alison. And obviously, I was volunteering for Fermanagh Women's Aid for 17 years. And there's plenty of women that have to hide under bushes and run across fields. And it is a massive issue. And Women's Aid workers have to go and meet them in all sorts of places in the middle of nowhere and stuff. So transport and taxi fares is really, really important. And it is something that's not funded. So I definitely propose to add that into the letters. And I think the Department of Justice last year or the year before, when we wrote to them on this, just give us, it really wasn't a suitable answer at all. So I do think we definitely need to write back to them again. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're all agreed on the proposed actions, members. Okay, that's it. They have been proposed and seconded variously. Thanks very much. Moving on then. That was page 1 and page 2. Look around me here. And page 3. Page 3. I'll start this one. Okay. Page 3, item 4.1, the A5 Western Transport Corridor judicial decision. Two things. We're going to meet with the minister. The date set aside is the 12th of November. So that'll be an in-person meeting. We didn't want online meetings. We want an in-person meeting. And I think Alison will be taking us through maybe nominations for a deputation to represent the council in respect of the A5. And then just secondly, to notify you that a Civic Leaders Initiative that I'm taking next Monday, meeting with chairs and mayors of Mid-Ulster, Derry Strabane, Donegal and Monaghan coming together. That would be the chairs and mayors and chief executives or appointed directors. Again, to just keep up the momentum of the campaign for the A5. And that's in the context of a delay reported this very week on the appeal timeline or timetable up ahead. It was said in UTV, Sarah O'Kane and others reported, that it would take 9 to 12 months for an appeal to be heard. Obviously, the A5 N2 group that members here sit on have been very helpful. And at our meeting next week, John, our director, John Hughes, will give us input to the meeting, on behalf of and in association with that group, So, and also Paul Canning will be there in his Donegal chair role. He's the current chair of the A5N2 group that some of our members sit on. But over to you now, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe just to note the letter that members have received, just confirming, as you'd indicated, Chair, the Minister's willingness to meet. So the proposed date is Wednesday, the 12th of November from 10:15 to 10:45 in James House, Belfast. And just if members be in position, we could certainly take nominations this evening, Chair. I know the Minister's office are keen to get arrangements finalised if possible.
Okay. And if not, we could set a Friday or something as a deadline this week. Would that be right? Maybe Friday 12 midday of nominations for the deputation, all party and character. I presume the chair and vice chair and yourself, Alison, and group leader appointments. Would that be it? Okay. So if you can contact Alison's office by, say, Friday at 12 midday would be appropriate. Okay. And again, a proposer and a seconder to note the correspondence. Councillor Campbell and Councillor Stephen Donnelly, John was willing to, proposed and seconded. Moving on then, page 3 again here, item 4.3, Arkin issues at St Connor's Primary School, Brookmount Road, Omagh. This wouldn't keep surfacing if it wasn't an urgent, serious problem. It's really urgent and it's really serious. And I'll ask John Boyle to provide a brief update on a meeting that John and I had with a representative of the Lamy residents just after 6 o'clock this evening, because this is day 2 of the new school year. And how has it gone today? And how did it go yesterday? And then after that, I have a couple of proposals to make. But okay, I'll do that after John. All right. Okay, so I'll go to John now.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we met with a representative of the residents. I suppose it hasn't improved. If anything, at the start of the school year, indications are that if anything, the situation has got worse. Parking is on both sides of the road. Entrances to the various parks beside St Connor's Primary School. At best, there is only one way in and one way out because of the blockages that the parents are with cars on both sides of the road at the entrances. And there is, and we had a delegation who met various representatives in June, and one of those people was a very local resident with a number of children with severe medical needs. Should those children require any medical attention, it just would not be possible to get an ambulance to and from that house. The resident today has stated that there was total blockage between 2 and 3 o'clock outside the school, and also in the morning time. And there were lorries, there were cars that were standing still for at least 10 minutes as the parents collected their children. So it is an issue which is continuing. You will see members, the correspondence from the Minister in relation to it. And just this afternoon, the head of estates in the Department of Education has contacted me to have a meeting on the issue, and hopefully that meeting will take place in the coming days, and a report will be brought to members in respect of the outcome of that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, John. And we all have the letter in our agenda papers, and obviously, at the very least, I would want to express disappointment that the Minister is not of a mind to schedule a visit to the school to see for himself the situation. It's good that our Director is going to meet with a senior Department of Education official this week. But there's a couple of things I'd like to say before I come to Councillor Deehan, who's the only councillor indicating at this point. I think we should be writing to the Department for Infrastructure. This is in relation to the interim measures that are required, short-term interim measures regarding parking on one side of the road and yellow lines. Because the round table that met about this, convened and chaired by John, highlighted the need for that. So how long will it take for the double yellow lines to be in place? What consultation process is required for that, and when? What is the timeline? Emphasising too to the Department of Education that this is a health and safety issue. So a letter to the Minister on the health and safety aspect of this, and also a letter to the Board of Governors requesting what contribution they might make to an interim solution as well, an interim remedy. So those are a group of proposals. And with that, I'll go to Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. And at the outset, I would want to thank you and John Boyle for arranging the meeting with the Lammy residents. And certainly John's report is very concerning. And Chair, you will recall that our roundtable discussion with Lammy residents and other stakeholders saw very emotional scenes as residents really expressed their extreme distress at the risk of not being able to get emergency services in and out of Lammy. And I think previously in our letters to the Minister, we did emphasise health and safety, and in a previous correspondence from the Minister for Education, he did emphasise his commitment to health and safety measures. But clearly, you know, I think it is right that we would write again to express our disappointment that he cannot make time to visit the school to see for himself the urgency of the situation. So in summary, Chair, I would propose, first of all, that we note the correspondence from the Minister, and I would be more than happy to second those proposals that you have made, which I think are very reasonable and very sensible. We need to get interim measures progressed as quickly as possible before we find the definitive solution to what is really a very difficult and dangerous problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Deehan. And Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. And if the correspondence need a seconder for noting, I'll second that gladly. I suppose it is disappointing that the Minister isn't fit to come down, but there may be good reason for that. I'm not going to comment any more on that. But I'm happy enough to support your proposals with regard to trying to get in this situation, this serious situation that it is at St. Connor's Primary School, to try and get it resolved because it's ongoing for quite a while. And anyone who, and I've said it at meetings before, and I said it with the meeting we had with the residents downstairs earlier in the summer, that you know, you only have to drive through there in the rush hours to see what's actually happening there. So it's a very important issue, and I'm prepared to support your proposals, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor McColgan.
Thank you, Chair, and support everything that has already been said. This has been going on for a long time, as we're all aware. And there were some considerations in 2021 about some resolutions, and nothing has happened in that since. And Councillor Deehan mentioned about the Minister in a previous letter committing to addressing the safety issue, but I think what he actually was talking about was he had a constrained budget, which was to be dealt with safety issues. But I think he keeps referring to this as a traffic and parking issue, and I think that needs to be emphasised, that the health and safety concerns is there, and it's good to hear now that there is going to be a meeting with the director, and hopefully these issues can be raised.
Thank you. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. And it is disappointing that we have seen, I suppose, what you could call a deterioration in a situation that was already quite bad in the Lammy area. I mean, we know what the situation is. It's been long-standing for quite some time in terms of the fact that you've got people in there who've got medical needs, you have people who are elderly, you've got those who have got disabilities, and the continued lack of access for many residents being able to get in and out of their own housing estates is completely unacceptable, and it is going to provide and continue to provide serious health and safety challenges. And I think the point that I would make, and certainly that I observed whenever I was coming into Lammy yesterday, although I was going up the Tamlet Road, is that part of the problem that is being exacerbated by the fact that we haven't got grips on this is the fact that towards the two roundabouts, where essentially you have that Brookmount Road coming in, meeting the Tamlet Road from Clanabogan, is that you've got people who are trying to get to the school, but equally you've got a number of people coming along a number of different roads, trying to avoid the Dromore Road and trying to get to work. But essentially, in the end up, there's been a significant amount of build-up, and I'm concerned at the possibility that with this being exacerbated, that this is going to end up in an accident at some point, sort of lower down, I guess, the Tamlet and the Brookmount Road. So this is a traffic management issue. It is a health and safety issue, and hopefully we'll be able to make some progress in this in due course. But certainly the lack of pace to date has been disappointing.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll go to John maybe for a concluding comment. John, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Chair, I think Councillor McColgan mentioned that there was a proposal in 2021, which was being facilitated by the council here as a solution to the issue. I think that remains on the table. And I think with discussions with the Department of Education, I think that is our starting point, like, you know, again, because all other solutions have been discussed between the school and between the department and between the Education Authority, and no resolution has been found to those. So I think we need to go back to that original proposal which was on the table and see, you know, where the difficulties are in relation to it. I know it probably will come down to funding, but as members have stated, it is a health and safety issue, and it isn't just a traffic management health and safety issue. It is a health and safety issue for the children and a health and safety issue for the residents who live in that area. So I think it's on that ethos that we need to be concentrating with the department.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to John for his attention to this matter. And again, this is against the backdrop of a council that's willing to transfer a portion of land reasonably to facilitate a solution. And we just want the Department of Education to meet us in our half. Okay, so we've agreed those actions, members. They are agreed. And we'll keep proceeding now. Page 4. Alison.
Thanks, Chair. Just to draw members' attention, a response from the Secretary of State. This was in relation to the Council's representations on concerns about the ID cards, electoral ID cards. So the Secretary of State has suppose, noted the situation, has advised the Electoral Office is responsible for the operational aspects of voter registration. We have also extended the invitation to the Electoral Office to meet with members, and I know they're looking at that, Chair. Just we're awaiting their final consideration of that.
Okay. And I would at least take a proposer and seconder to note. So of Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly proposing, have I a seconder to note the correspondence? Councillor Lane Bruff, thank you. Okay, and that's noted. Okay. Page 4 and page 5. Okay, and again, Alison.
No, thanks, Chair. It's just again, page 5, item 4.6, just to draw members' attention to the correspondence received from the Divisional Roads Manager regarding roundabouts, sponsorship opportunities and current arrangements in Fermanagh and Omagh.
Okay. Again, I'll take a proposer and a seconder to note. Councillor Hayes and Councillor Robinson. Okay, thank you. Proposed and seconded and agreed, members. Page 5 continued. Okay, Councillor Roof.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to briefly come in on the email or letter from the department. It does mention about the Enniskillen bid and the excellent work they have done, and I just wanted to thank them on behalf of the council, if possible, and the local businesses that have been involved. So Balcas and NSERC, the Donnelly Group, I believe, are on board now as well, amongst others. So it's really brightened up the town, and as those plantations in the roundabouts develop and mature, I'm sure it'll really add to the town. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Deehan.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me in to comment on this. I would regard this, Chair, as being quite a positive piece of correspondence from Daniel Healy, although he does make it clear in his correspondence that the responsibility of his department is for safety rather than the visual amenity or indeed environmental or biodiversity issues. And I accept that. But he has in that letter given a commitment that there would be no, from here on in, there is going to be no more concreting over the roundabout islands. And I think that I hope that is in response to the lobbying that this council made on issues of environmental protection and biodiversity, as well as the visual amenity which we referred to. So I think it's a positive piece of correspondence, and I think it shows the benefit of lobbying government departments on issues like this. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. I think with that matter dealt with, but I'm anticipating that Councillor Green's issue might be 4.7. Is that correct, Councillor Green? All right, okay. No problem coming in the roundabouts then, Seamus?
Yeah, it was just Daniel Healy's response that, they are responsible for the safety and not for the visual views of the roundabouts. I suppose the same could be said about farmers. They're responsible for their businesses, but it doesn't stop them from maintaining their roadside hedges and that, so I don't really take that as an excuse, to be honest.
Okay, Councillor O'Reilly.
Chair, I'm not sure, just on 4.4.
Okay. 4.4, you'd like to go back to 4.4?
If you don't mind, I missed that, just the electoral office and the ID card.
Yep.
So
okay.
I'm a little confused as to who at the end of the day is responsible for the actual provision of these that address with the Assembly, and we don't seem to be making any headway with sort of our communications at all so far. And I'm proposing, Chair, that we do write back and try to cut through a lot of this ambiguity. There used to be a program called Yes Minister, and a certain Mr. Humphreys wrote some replies and that, and it was very hard to figure out what exactly the message was. Well, it's a bit like that here too. I'm proposing, Chair, so that we have some sort of clarity, that there is actually a process put in place that all school age pupils of 16 are issued an electoral ID card, so that everybody coming through the system, and I heard last week, I think it was, that the legislation to allow 16-year-olds to vote in the upcoming assembly and council elections would not be in place. But we could certainly make some inroads in preparation there to allow all 16-year-olds to get electoral ID cards while they're at school. And this negates the problem, Chair, of trying to allow them to either have a passport or driving license or other permitted documents if they are given that as a baseline, all pupils at schools.
Okay. So that's proposed by Councillor O'Reilly, and I'm going to Councillor Hayes.
Just wanted to come in and second that proposal,
Okay,
please,
thank
Chair.
you. Okay, so we went back to page 4 quite correctly, and we have a proposer and seconder for actions accordingly. Okay, and all agreed, members? Okay, and then I think we're moving on. We're still at page 5, but just at the bottom of page 5, I'll ask Alison to come in first.
Yes, Chair. So, Chair, this is in relation to item 4.7, the rural parliaments, and it was agreed at the last meeting that I'd engage with the group leaders, which I've done in relation to a council delegation, and I've also been in contact with the European Rural Parliament. So the advice, Chair, that we've received is that the European Rural Parliament is a civil society-led assembly, and therefore the nominations and the coordinations for the delegation of a country, so in this case for Northern Ireland, are dealt with by a civil society partner. Now in our case, that's the Rural Community Network, and I have been in contact with them. There's no opportunity for the council or indeed any other organisation to provide nominations outside of the RCN system. My understanding is I think they have 5 places in total. Given the council's interest in the subject, RCN has offered that we would have 1 place on the delegation. However, they describe themselves as a non-party political organisation, and as such, they would be proposing that a council officer would participate. So obviously, Chair, this is not what we had envisaged, and certainly from the research that I've undertaken, I genuinely don't, because we had also asked if there was an opportunity for a delegation to go simply as observers, and we've been advised that that's not an option. So that's the position as we have it at the moment, and certainly very happy to deal with any queries or any other suggestions.
Okay. I thank the Chief Executive for the information. I don't think that was our understanding as such, but the information has been very forthcoming. Councillor O'Reilly?
It's not on this issue, so if anybody else wishes.
Back to me later then. Okay. Councillor Green?
Thank you, Chair. It's really hard to understand how the European Rural Parliament are trying to block rural people from attending it. It seems a contradiction in terms. Was that from a rural community network that came from, or was it directly from the European organisers of the European Parliament event that came back?
It was from the European Parliament, Chair. So I wrote to the European Parliament in the first instance, the Rural Parliament. They then responded to my letter, and in that response they included the Rural Community Network, who then engaged with me directly on the nomination process and on the delegation arrangements.
Okay, and so if it's a European-wide event, are they saying there's only 5 members entitled to go from each jurisdiction? It'd be an extremely small conference if that's the case, because that's not what I was led to believe on previous European Parliament events. I was led to believe they were very big events. I was also led to believe that, contrary to the thing that is just Civic, that European parliaments or even rural parliaments within countries, their entire point was to engage with government and with government bodies, so that it was almost like a lobbying process. Are they saying they don't do that now, that they have nothing to do with governments and local governments?
Chair, I suppose a couple of those questions I wouldn't have specifically asked, but my understanding of how it works is that the European Rural Parliament has a core number of delegates. It is that Parliament which is coming to Scotland. Now, I don't know the final composition of it, but I think that's a reasonably large number. What we're talking about is the ability for people who are not members of the Parliament to be able to access the proceedings. And I understand the only mechanism through the Rural Parliament for that to happen is for the civic society body, which in this case is RCN, to include you as part of their delegation. I haven't asked what the composition from other jurisdictions is. I don't know. I did try and check out even the detail around programming, but certainly the numbers that I gauged from the website and others, there's not an awful lot of information. We're maybe in and around about 150 or so. But certainly the questions about other nominating mechanisms, or indeed how political reps are nominated who are not members of the Parliament itself, I haven't posed those questions.
Okay. Maybe can we get back to them on that? And was it made clear, you know, what our purpose was to try and to set up? Now, I take their point, and that was always the point, is that it's a civic led rural parliament locally, but obviously they need funding through local government, through the executive office and that. So that was where the motion came from, was to help and to try and guide that, not to be the leader of it or that, but to facilitate it. So that process can still go on, if even with this European Parliament being reluctant to let us in. Maybe when we get it up and running ourselves, we'll be maybe more welcomed.
Okay, thanks, Seamus, for now. And Councillor John Feely.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just from my reading of it, it's kind of welcome that the European Rural Parliament already has connections in the north here, because although the north doesn't have a rural parliament, obviously they have contacts with the RCN. So I propose we maybe put out more feelers to the RCN and see if they are actually working behind the scenes of setting up a rural parliament here, and maybe have a meeting with them, maybe with the rural group, maybe be a good idea. Yeah. And also maybe that if they, I understand that they don't want to make it political, but the chair is not political. It's not a political party. He's actually representing the chair. So maybe ask if chair, vice chair, or chair of one of the committees can go, as in not in a political sense, but as in representing the residents of Multidisciplinary District Council. That'd be my just two quick proposals, maybe.
Okay, thank you, John. And I'll go now to Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to second Councillor Feely's proposal.
Okay. I want to acknowledge that, not least in Councillor Green's proposals previously, that this is a genuine interest. It's not playing games. It's the emphasis, it's the level of emphasis that this council is putting on rural deficits. And that's why we set up the Rural Affairs Subcommittee. And we will continue to look for platforms and opportunities to highlight rural, you know, irrespective of what happens here in this matter. But John has made a proposal, seconded by Debbie. If we vote on that, or if we agree on that, is that the matter concluded for the purposes of today? If it is, I just seek your agreement then. Agreed, members?
Chair, may I just clarify?
Yeah.
Certainly, Chair, we'll progress accordingly. May I check, in the event that RCN decline or say they are unable, and I do accept the point of the chair, vice chair and others are non-political, do we wish to include an officer within the delegation to report back? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the matter dealt with for the purposes of this evening. So that was page 5 and page 6 now, moving on. Councillor Riley.
Yeah.
Forget to come back to me there, Chair. Usually, Chair, I'm given out about DFI and the slowness of their response to issues that are raised right across the council area. Can I report to the chamber that at 4.5 there, after, and I mean this in the most positive way, after 3 years plus of lobbying for a dropped curb to facilitate people with a disability to get off at the local community centre in Newton Butler, they have managed last week to get around to dropping the curb to allow people to access their vehicle, not into the flow of traffic, but onto the pavement to enter the community centre. So well done to the department for eventually acting on the long campaign to get that done.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I suppose I would love to have something nice to say about DFI, but unfortunately, my experience with the last couple of issues, I was approached for from somebody from Maravilli to see would there be any possibility of installing speed ramps in the village. I got word back no, that they had other priorities. I also contacted them about a disabled bay in Rosslea. Again, that wasn't doable. So it always seems to be no, no, no. Maybe it's the matter of keeping at them for year after year after year, like Councillor O'Reilly said there. And no doubt I will keep at them, but you know, their first thing seems to be always a no. You know, there never seems to be a positive response back from them on an initial email.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green. Just keep checking my room and the computer. No. So page 6 continued there. Matters arising. Alison.
Thank you, Chair. It's just actually, in a way, linked to the matter we were just discussing, item 4.9, and it's just to confirm the delegation to meet with the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Infrastructure. That's next week, and it's in relation to the really the work of the Rural Affairs Subcommittee, and in particular the anomalies around rural funding. So, Chair, just to advise at this stage, our confirmed members are yourself, Councillor Green and Councillor McArdle. We have a number of apologies, and we're just waiting for confirmation about the availability of 2 members, Councillor Buchanan and Councillor Rainey. So we will follow up with those members separately.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's fine. So page 6 continued. We'll move on to page 7. Page 8. Right, okay, Alison.
Here, just on page 7, to draw members' attention, the letters that we have received. This was in relation to the motion that the council had adopted regarding, or sorry, this was the restoration of emergency general surgery at Southwest Acute Hospital, and specifically that the matter be included as a cross-cutting priority at an executive discussion. We had a couple of letters at the previous month's meeting, so this is the response from the Agriculture Minister, the Justice Minister, and also the Health Minister, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'll propose to note all the relevant correspondence. What I will say, we've had 4 from the 10 executive ministers responding, which is a bit of a disappointing response rate. We'll put it down to the August recess, and hopefully we'll have full responses come next month. I think it'd be particularly important for the responses from the First Minister and Deputy First Minister, and I think Infrastructure and Economy too, very relevant to that cross-cutting nature of it, possibly the most relevant departments as discussed in the actual motion. But we did have a couple of responses there. Firstly, Chair, I'd be very concerned about the Justice Minister, Naomi Long's response. It kind of indicates that, you know, the removal of emergency general surgery was transformation and that she's supportive of it. Now, maybe she didn't intend that, but that's certainly what it reads like. And it definitely reads the way that she'd support expert-led proposals, that she'd be supportive of the permanent removal. I would hope not. I hope it's just a case of not reading or responding to it fully. But the one thing I do say is she kind of, like other ministers, I suppose, washes her hands of it at the end of the letter. It's up to the Health Minister. Andrew Muir, though, gives a much more reasoned response, I must say, and has clearly took the time to go through it. But the thing that he said is he calls on the Health Minister. He wants to give the Health Minister time to engage with the Trust. The Health Minister has kind of just passed the buck. He's just passed it on to the Trust and say, away you go, provide the vision. You know, in his own response, Mike Nesbitt, that the consultation is entirely a matter for the Trust. Well, if it was entirely a matter for the Trust, why on earth were you intervening in it, Health Minister? You know, he's full of contradictions here. And what I would say is he said he'd happily discuss it at the Executive if his Executive colleagues bring it up. Is he the Health Minister or is he not? Who is responsible? You know, what's the point of Mike Nesbitt in Health if this is his response and attitude to it? He's saying he's telling the Trust to develop a vision. You're the Minister. It's your job to develop the vision. That's literally your role, is you're guiding the department and you're guiding Health. You are the provider of that. And, you know, I think his Executive colleagues are saying it's up to him. He's saying it's up to other people. I think there's serious question marks over the running of Health here in the North, with attitudes to that, and in particular, the approach to the hospital. Yeah, there's been one intervention. He's shown he can intervene. It's time for him to really up his game here. Otherwise, what's the point? Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just on this health debate and SWA and all of that, in the past couple of weeks, Alison and I met with the Mayor and Chief Executive of Derry Strabane Council, and in association with SOAS, we all met at the Guildhall in Derry, and we had an important engagement that was acknowledged publicly, you know, by SOAS as essentially a good thing to do. But what I want to say next is that if I'm looking at the roadmap that we have endorsed as a council, there's an important north-south bit in it, and it makes reference to cooperation in relation to health on a north-south basis, where it works, you know, like, for example, the Northwest Cancer Centre, you know, Donegal people accessing services, Galvin and all of that. But there's work to be done here with respect to SWA and barriers that are in place till people accessing SWA from neighbouring counties, and registration issues and insurance and various hurdles, you know. And I think in the month of September, we're due to hear the report of the ICLRD as well, you know, which was commissioned by this council to look at holistically in this council area our health deficits, you know. So one thing that I would like to put on the table is that we should be seeking, because this report's coming out, and this obviously was a feature of the discussions, and it's in the roadmap here produced by SOAS that we have endorsed, North-South Development and Opportunity for SWA. If we're looking to the long-term expansion of services there, then we need to look at this whole area carefully. So I would propose that we write to both Minister Nesbitt, but also Jennifer Carroll McNeil in the South, for a meeting to discuss our needs as a council area in respect of health, and this agenda here that has been identified in the roadmap, you know, that we discuss north-south barriers to access and the future sustainability of SWA in respect of having a greater catchment area, etc. So I obviously want to make that proposal even prior to the issuing of that report, but Alison might tell us about that report when it's due and that kind of thing, because again, this came from a council motion. But before I go to Alison, I'll go to Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I'm coming in the wrong place here.
This is about SWA and about health.
It is regards to the trust, yeah. But you just mentioned the letters from the ministers.
Yeah.
It was just a question to the trust, not specific. I can come in later
Okay,
if you.
might be later on.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay,
Okay,
thank
that's
you.
okay.
Go now. I think, Adam, I've heard from you. You're going to second that proposal. Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Okay, I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Councillor Coyle next.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was going to mention the ICLRD report, but I just wanted to add, you've actually covered what I was originally going to ask, but I just think that not just the minister in the south, but I think we need to be contacting our bordering councillors as well, because they're going to be debating this in their council chambers, and we need to be doing that, you know, together and meeting up with them as well. And I think I wanted to ask Alison, although I'm sure she's going to tell us, are we having a meeting with ICLRD before the actual final report, aren't we? And then I think once the final report is done, I think it actually needs to be sent, because it is about the health of the whole, everybody on the island. You know, like, you know, we've got the Children's Hospital in Dublin. And I think it needs to go to every council on the island once it's done. But I just would like clarification over the meeting before the final report is done. And I do think it needs to go out, especially not just to Derry and Strabane and Mid-Ulster, but you know, Cavan, Leitrim, Sligo, Donegal, Monaghan.
I'll come back to Alison in a second. I'll take Councillor Reilly and then a comment from Councillor Gannon.
Chair, I just want to throw into this conversation what I seen Professor Mark Taylor saying a couple of days ago, that, and we all know how long the elective surgery waiting lists are and all of the rest, and that his job is to find a way to bring down waiting lists and to reconstruct how services delivered. And he made a point that rural hospitals were well placed to be the elective centres, so that emergency wouldn't disrupt the routine of elective surgeries, and that they could play obviously a big role in taking down waiting lists. But while that is all well and good in a way, it certainly leaves a lot of questions for hospitals such as SWA.
Thank you, Thomas. Councillor Deehan, and then finally it'll be Councillor Gannon. Councillor Deehan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I want to support your proposals in their entirety, Chair. What you say and what you propose makes perfect sense. We need, and yes, I do agree that, you know, local hospitals can provide very valuable elective services. But I think what we need to fight for is acute services. And we all know how important it is to have ready access to those acute services when we need them, particularly in our district council area, which covers a wide geographical area with very poor roads infrastructure. I do think there is a major role for cross-border cooperation in the area of healthcare, and particularly in the area of acute care. And that is something that needs to be explored as a matter of urgency. We need to fight using every possible avenue for the retention of full services in the Southwest Acute Hospital, which serves not only the Fermanagh County, but also the Omagh and district as well. And those are services that we value very much, and we are committed to fighting for their preservation, Chair. So I support your proposals entirely. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Deehan. And finally, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me back in. And it's just a quick suggestion to add to your very good proposal, and everyone else made absolutely excellent points. Perhaps in our correspondence, we obviously to the Jennifer Carroll McNeil, if we forward a copy or the link to the roadmap itself. It's a great document. And then when ICLRD comes out, when it's appropriate, I think Councillor Coyle made a great suggestion about the councils across the border. Maybe we should be formalising some form of engagement on it with them to really highlight it. But that's for another time. But a very good proposal, Chair. Thank you.
And that's agreed, members, those actions that have been proposed and seconded. Thanks very much, everybody. So again, page 7.
So, sorry, Chair, just in relation to Councillor Coyle's query about ICLRD. So yes, the intention is that we will receive a final draft report, which will then be shared, discussed, briefed with members, see if there are any matters that need to be updated, reflected, and then that'll be, the report will be finalised. Sorry, that should be received now within, I would hope, the next 10 days or so. And then when I would hope the final draft should be fairly much there, then it'll be finalised, and it was agreed that we would do a launch of that report, but that also ICLRD would perhaps give us some advice, and this evening's discussion is relevant as well around how we might choose to present it and advocacy. And then the final element, Chair, that we would also tie in, I think, to the consideration of that at the Manor House event, it was suggested that the council may be a suitable body to perhaps on an annual or every other year basis do, whether it be called a symposium, but a specific focus on rural health within the district. So that would be something that we would be thinking then for 2026. So yes, a long answer to say yes, you will see a final draft.
Okay, page 8, page 9. I might move speedily here. You'd want to be sharp in the next 10 minutes. Page 10, page 11, page 12.
Sorry, Chair, I'm conscious you very speedily moved just past the Trust's letter, which I think is what Councillor Hayes had maybe wanted, which essentially was our request had been that we would have confirmation that there wouldn't be a recommencement of the consultation until the vision document was complete. So the Trust have said in that letter that they will commit to ongoing engagement with our Health and Social Care Subcommittee. We do have a workshop on the Friday week, Chair, and then the next Health Subcommittee is due on the 18th. So that's that particular letter.
Okay, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alison. This is actually just something related to the trust, but not completely related to that subject. I just wanted to, if you'd allow me to, I was chatting recently to a newly graduated nurse who did their placement at SWA and have been interviewed by them, but has not been offered a post. And also been told that they're not aware of any newly qualified nurses that did their posts at SWA being actually offered a post. So I was wondering, you know, we're being told that there's a shortage. I was wondering if we could get clarification from the Trust on that, and even the Minister, that newly qualified nurses that do their placements at SWA, have any of them actually been offered a post there? Sorry if it's a bit off topic, but I just wanted to come in there.
We can check that. Recently I met a young doctor who said it's very hard to get a job around here. And it struck me as the complete opposite of what we're being told.
Okay. That's my point.
Get seconder for Nolan's proposal, Councillor Russian Devine Gallagher. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, and just a proposer and seconder to note the correspondence. Councillor Coyle and Councillor Bruff, thank you. Okay, page 12.
Chair, just at the top of page 12, we have responses from both Northern Ireland Water and the Utility Regulator. And this was in relation, really, there were two elements. The first was the clarification on the planning processes for PC28. And then that was really to the Utility Regulator. And then Northern Ireland Water, there were a number of queries, including if there's any arrangements being put in place to remediate areas who received very low allocations, as we did in PC21, and also where there are areas of proven undercapacity. So the responses, the Utility Regulator sets out their availability of documents. I don't think they have been published yet, Chair, but we'll keep an eye for them. And Northern Ireland Water also sets out its approach, but confirms there are no plans for remediation works to be undertaken.
Councillor Green.
I was reading that, and I was finding it hard to figure out what they were actually saying and what they were proposing. And I suppose, as Alison has pointed out there, by what she said, it's very unclear. Fermanagh, there are some suggestions that Fermanagh and Omagh got 2.5% of the allocation for PC21. When they came down here in their own literature, it was 0.6%, and Fermanagh got 0.2%. How it went up to 2.5%, I'm baffled. That has never been explained to me. Because if there was added money give to Fermanagh, I'm sure there was added money give to every other region, or they would be telling us about that we specifically got extra money. So I'm not sure where that comes from. Their criteria for PC28, I think they've set out a timeline of events that they're going to have, or a time scale, or a time, almost like a calendar of events, which basically tells us nothing either. Is there anything we can write back to them that it actually get some kind of a clear answer, or is it like the Councillor Riley there and the Yes Minister answers, where these answers that come back answers nothing, and you know, it's basically telling us, you know, well, that's as much as we're going to tell you, which is nothing, zero. What we want to know is what we're getting in PC28. Is there anything they can do about PC21? I think they've answered that, is that no, they're not going to relook at it again. We can buzz off. But apart from that, I think we need to come up with some format of putting pressure on them from now till 2028. This process is over, so that they cannot forget about a system. And if they do forget about a system, we have been forewarned, and it'll be probably our own fault of not keeping them tortured, for the want of a better word, between now and then. So I'm open to suggestions of what we actually can do, but I would almost suggest we write a letter a month to them, repeating the same stuff, because maybe eventually they'll actually give us an answer to the stuff we're asking.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Green. Alison, might reply.
Yes, Chair. I think in relation to Councillor Green's first point about the anomaly between the figures, I suppose the 2.5 versus the 0.6, 0.8, I think what we can do is write back maybe and just seek the actual breakdown of the figures quoted. You know, that might at least address that anomaly. We have included this matter for the meeting with the Infrastructure Minister next week, in terms of for the rural affairs side of things. I don't think we're going to get much more at this point from the utility regulator, but I think it probably, well, certainly, Chair, we will continue to review the publication of the documents. I think what isn't answered in either of the letters was the council's request about essentially, again, how rural needs are actually considered in the context of decision making. And it appears to me the PC28 documents will be out for consultation, and that will certainly be a formal opportunity for that to be conveyed again. But we could specifically go back on that point, just around how the utility regulator and obviously NI Water ensures that rural needs are adequately, given that it isn't our experience that this has been done in the past.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Green. And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Devine Gallagher seconded. Thank you. Okay, and agreed, members. And that was page 12 and page 13.
Thanks, Chair. Just the bottom of page 12, top of page 13, to advise we have a response now from the Interim Chief Operating Officer of the SPPG regarding the rollout of multidisciplinary teams in the district.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor O'Reilly.
Chair, I think we're back to the same scenario once again. We get a response, a series of responses now, and we're no clearer than when we started asking the question specifically on Lisnaskea and the new health centre, and what is the plan? And I'm not sure, I may be confusing two correspondence here, Chair, and I seek that guidance as to whether this is a separate correspondence than the correspondence that we sent seeking the plan for the rollout, or it's a separate correspondence. Well, from this correspondence, Chair, there doesn't seem to be much of a plan in place, and I want to, I don't know whether we are reaching the point where we should be writing back to ask the Minister if he is going to respond to us on the Lisnaskea Health Centre, because, Chair, it is progressing fairly steadily in a build process, and we are going to be in the same situation as I spoke about when the build of the Southwest Acute Hospital was happening, and I sat on the design team, that we will have a really fabulously built physical building. But unless we have the clinicians and the allied health professionals in it, we're not going to be in a better position to deliver service to the Erne East area. And I am still at a loss to see where the Minister's plan is and the relevant bodies that are charged with providing those services to allow the proper level of service provided to the people that are going to use that health centre. And some years ago, we were told that health centres were going to be that sort of jump between sort of patient and hospital, that you didn't need to go with every small ailment to the hospital and clog up hospital A&Es and all the rest. We're not seeing any of that sort of thinking in these responses. This response does not give me any comfort at all, Chair, that by 2030 even, that we will have multidisciplinary teams into the health centre. So, Chair, can I propose that we write back seeking, one, the clarification to the plan? What is the plan specifically for the Lisnaskea Health Centre, and how are the multidisciplinary teams going to be rolled out alongside the provision of sufficient GPs to run that service?
Thank you. Wasn't it the term, Tom, spoke and hub? Isn't that right? You know,
that's
hospitals
right.
And health centres, or
yes.
GP. Anyway, next up, I'm going to go to Councillor Deehan, followed by Councillor Roof, followed by Councillor McCann. Okay, Councillor Deehan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, Councillor O'Reilly is proposing to note the correspondence from Tracy McCaig. I will second the noting of the correspondence. Chair, as you will be aware, this council over the years lobbied really hard for funding for the implementation of multidisciplinary teams for our council area, which comprises the Southwest GP Federation. We were extremely grateful to be awarded multidisciplinary teams, but really disappointed at the implementation plan. First of all, the slow pace of it, which is the MDTs are going to be rolled out in 2 phases over a period of 8 years. And the funding which is currently allocated to that process is much reduced from what we had anticipated. And as I've commented in a previous meeting of this council, in the first year of rollout of multidisciplinary teams in our council area, we will have a sum total of 8 practitioners to be spread over 20 practices. And that will include 4 physiotherapists and 4 mental health practitioners. Very welcome, but very little. And I think what surprised us really in the Southwest Federation was that there was no consultation about how the multidisciplinary teams were going to be rolled out. So that, for example, the Derry Federation, which has had multidisciplinary teams, they were going to be awarded funding to complete that project in the Derry Federation area, whereas we in the Southwest, we were just getting a fraction of what we were expecting. So Whilst some progress is welcomed, we are very disappointed about the speed of rollout and the actual amount of investment. And I support and second Councillor O'Reilly's proposal that we would write back to the Minister asking for further clarification around Listen Ski, but also appealing to him to increase the funding available and to speed up the rollout of this vital service. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Dean. Councillor Roof.
Thanks, Chair. I was going to come in the same kind of ilk as Councillor Dean has there, to kind of confirm that yes, at this stage it's 4 physios and 4 mental health practitioners. And as Councillor Dean said, that's across 20 GP surgeries, but to give a better context for the public, that's across 130,000 patients that those 4 physios, 4 mental health specialists are going to be. It's piecemeal at best, and it's not going to be a drop in the ocean on what's actually needed for people in the community. The reality is the people who need seen are still going to be seen in secondary care where there isn't the space available, and the sooner that the rollout is strengthened beyond what is so far a tiny sum, the better, because without that we're going to be stuck exactly where we are at the minute with huge waiting lists in our A&Es. Thank you.
Okay, and just Josephine's iteration and your reiteration of those figures, I mean, minuscule compared to what is needed. 4 physios, 4 mental health specialists across 20 GP practices, 130,000 people. Okay, thank you. Councillor McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And completely agree 100% with the previous 3 speakers as well. And I'm coming in on the figures also. I just picked up on a paragraph from the letter from Tracy, and in that she refers to the plan aims to ensure a phased, fair and sustainable expansion of MDTs while maintaining quality and continuity for areas that already have MDTs. That sentence causes me a wee bit of concern. And she goes on to say, while we are committed to extending the MDTs to the new federation areas, the five areas, it is equally important to ensure that the MDT federation areas receive the necessary funding to complete their teams and provide equitable access and so on and so forth. Now, that kind of is in contradiction to what the Minister was saying back in March and in July, whenever he was saying that the £61 million executive transformation funding will enable it to be expanded to a further 5 areas. I read that as being £61 million of investment to the 5 areas to roll out or to start the rollout of MDTs. It's not to be used to further build and improve other MDTs in other locations, whilst that is obviously important as well. But from this part of the country where Tyrone, here West Tyrone, where Trillick and Dromore and Fenton surgeries have been, obviously under severe pressure for the last while, we're keen to see these MDTs getting established. And I don't want to see any of that £61 million being just, diverted away from our areas to build up and to improve current MDTs in other areas. So if we can get that clarified through letters as well, Chair, I make that a proposal. Well, that can be tied into the letter to the Minister for Health, but maybe also back to the SPPG as well, saying that no harm to you, but your letter that you sent us, it's in slight contradiction to what the Minister is saying. We need to see this £61 million being sent to our part of the world, the M5 federation areas, to get the MDTs off the ground. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McCann. Councillor Green.
Yeah, and I'd like to agree with everything that has been said previously. On a slightly different thing, but still around Lissaski Health Centre, I noticed it started, I'm not sure when it started, it seems to be a fair length of time, and as Councillor Riley said, there seems to be progress in making, but up until now, all the progress was on the ground, and so now it has started to rear its head above ground, and I'm just wondering, being very conscious of the public purse, could we write a letter to the department just to ensure that it's still within budget, because we wouldn't want it running outside budget or anything, and just to see how it's going that way, because I think there was 30 million allocated to it, and it almost seems that there was that much built on the ground that that budget would be fairly well used up at this stage with the the amount of groundwork that needed to go in and piling. So just can we just clarify that?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to support all the comments that's been made so far. I did originally comment to second Councillor O'Reilly's, but I was wondering if you could just indulge me a little bit, because I actually forgot to mention something in my original point about the nurses being recruited at SWAT. If you wouldn't mind me adding one more point.
Wait, we'll stick on this and I'll bring you in later on that, if you don't
It's
mind.
just one more thing. It's just they've been told that they could only apply to one trust.
Okay,
That's it.
so that's
That
point
could be
of
added, yeah.
information. Okay, that is
So-
included.
so
Thank
my
you, Lloyd.
apologies. Thank you, Chair.
You know, whenever a councillor says to the chair, if you indulge me or give me some latitude, you're always on the defensive, you know, and then you consult standing orders, no, in 3 minutes and all this crack, you know. That's a real good tip, Rory. If you're trying to speak beyond 3 minutes on a topic, say, can I have some latitude? And the answer will be no. But thanks, Tony, for that additional point of information. Thank you. Now, we're going to conclude here with Councillor Feely, I believe, John, on this matter.
Thank you, Chair. If you could give me just a wee bit of latitude. No, it's just, I've been reading this this letter too, and basically they're kind of washing their hands off it a bit and just telling us to deal with the trust, aren't they? And unfortunately, as we all know about the Western Trust, it's dairy centric, and they're telling us to have a meeting with them. I think we'd want to be having a meeting with the Western MDT program as soon as possible, and really hammer home that the Western Trust are not being good to our area. So that's just all I have to say.
The splitting up of the northern sector and the southern sector of the trust. We're the southern sector of the trust, and the poor relation. Okay, seconder for the meeting. Okay, Councillor Debbie Coyle caught me eye first there with her hand up. All agreed, members? Okay, so that's pages 12 and 13. You're stopping me more often than anybody else, Alison. You know, 14 and 15. Okay, 14, you're stopping me again, okay.
No, Chair, just to draw members' attention, it's the correspondence from the Minister of Finance. This was in relation to our motion on the urgent mitigations around the A5. And we've also a response from the Department of Education, Chair, and the Minister sets out, I suppose, his responsibilities around education and traffic education, but obviously sympathetic to the sentiment of the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to note the correspondence that we've got back on this motion. And also, I'd like to point out that I was a bit disappointed at what some local politicians said in the media after it. This isn't designed as an attack on drivers. This is designed to make people aware how dangerous this road is. And if we're to believe the local press, it could be a year up or more before the appeal gets heard. And the reality of it is, statistically, in that time, 2 to 3 people could die on this road in the next year. So that's the reality of it. And for to belittle it and say that it was anti-road and anti-driver, I thought it wasn't right at all. We want to see a new road, but we don't want to see any people lost while we're waiting on the new road.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, and a seconder's note, Councillor Campbell, thank you. Okay, so that was page 14, I think, and 15, wasn't that right? Page 16. Page 17, okay, Alison.
Just on 17, Chair, response from the Secretary of State. This is regarding the legislation about the voting for young people. So I know it was referenced earlier in the meeting, Chair, but just confirmation from the Secretary of State that there will not be provision for this to be in place for the May 2027 Northern Ireland Assembly and local elections.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a comment on this response from the Secretary of State. I suppose it's a disappointing response, but a very clear no, that they're not going to have this in place for the next 2027 election. Disappointing, as I said. We've got 2 years till the next Assembly election, and we're being told here that the British government can't organise a piece of legislation to be passed for this time in 2 years, you know, which seems to me an awfully long time. And they say that Stormont is inefficient. Well, I'd like to see this, you know, this seems to be beyond the pale altogether. So that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Donnelly.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Likewise, I'm quite disappointed, and I'm not entirely sure if I buy that this is a logistical issue, because I'm conscious of the fact that they're presumably going to have this in place for the next Westminster election, and you would think that that would only be a year to it max after the point at which they're saying that it's unfeasible here. And I know that there's already an operational benefit in the sense that in Scotland they already have votes at 16 for devolved elections. So I'm struggling to see how, from an operational standpoint, they wouldn't be able to put this into effect for the 4 regions. But disappointing, Chair, because I know that there's an awful lot of young people out there who are enthusiastic and desperate to be able to engage in the democratic process. So disappointing.
Okay, thank you. And Stephen, you'll second the noting of the correspondence. Thank you. Okay. So that was pages 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21.
Just on 20, Chair, a response from the Health Minister, and this is in relation to the motion the Council adopted on primary healthcare services.
Okay, so I'll go to Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I would like to propose the noting of this correspondence from Minister Nesbitt. This is a very lengthy response, Chair, running to something like 8 pages or so. And in that letter, the Minister reasserts his support for general practice and for the wider primary care family. And he acknowledges the pivotal importance of primary care. And he, emphasises very positive developments. For example, the new graduates from Ulster University's new medical school, various return to practice initiatives, GP mentorship, retainer schemes, all of that very, very positive and welcome. But really, I think that the Minister does skirt around the issue of direct support for general practice. Now, that is general practice as opposed to the wider primary care family, which obviously is important, but GPs play a pivotal role. Now, members will be aware that the BMA General Practitioners Committee is in official dispute with the Department of Health over this year's contract. And the Minister in his letter referred to 9.5 million of investment in core general practice services. In my view, that is not the correct interpretation, Chair. In it, he breaks it down to 5 million for GP indemnity, but we asked for full reimbursement for all GPs for indemnity, as is the case in other member countries in the United Kingdom. We did not get that. We just got 5 million to be distributed to GP partners only, not to all GPs. And as we know, Chair, there are more GPs who work as non-principals increasingly in primary care. Secondly, 3.5 million to cover the increase in indemnity employers' national insurance contribution. We want that reimbursed in full, because otherwise it really puts the sustainability of general practice fully in jeopardy. And as I said in a previous meeting, we asked for an additional 1% of spending, 80 million investment in core general practice, and we got exactly 1 million. We asked for 80 million, we got 1 million. To me, that is not really valuing the contribution that GPs make. So I would just ask a Chair and propose that we do write back to Minister Nesbitt and ask him to return to the negotiating table and negotiate on this year's contract. He has imposed that contract, which is it is unprecedented from any previous Minister for Health. So I would make that proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a seconder for Councillor Dean's proposal? Councillor Russian Divine Gallagher has seconded.
Chair, I think, sorry, Chair, just if I may, I think that was included within the original motion. So I think if Councillor Deehan was content, it would really just be to write back to the Minister. I suppose it's reframing it back in the motion, just maybe noting that that matter had not been fully addressed or addressed to member satisfaction. It's just that we would reflect the same decision rather than suggesting a new decision if members were content.
Okay.
Happy with that, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, there were a couple of good points in the letter. Especially, it was good to read that there were no contracts handed back in the last year or two. The MDTs, like there's lots of figures there, but that's figures for across the north and not to our council area. So it would be good to have clarification over that. Now, I think it did come up before, but you know, that's what they've written back. So we want to know when they're coming here. It says that the MDTs will be implemented in full over 8 years. Well, where are we on that 8-year waiting list? And how many of them staff are actually coming to Fermanagh and Omagh area? And also the graduation, I suppose, tying in with Nolene's question, the graduation of the students from McGee's, 69, I think there was. I've moved my page now, but I think there was 69. But how many of them are actually staying in the area and you know, staying as doctors, not just in our area, but even across the north? And you know, are they able to apply anywhere for work? Because there is you know, I don't know whether it's a fact or not, but that's what we want to find out, that nurses can only apply to one trust at a time. And I think that's important for us to know that, and it's important for them to know that as well. So, you know, just them couple of points, but there were a couple of good points in it as well that read quite positive. But, you know, anything that looked good tended to be for across the whole of the north and not in our council area. So I'd want clarification of what is coming here. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Well, that's agreed. The content. Have you any reflection to do there? I think she indicated. Councillor Deehan did indicate or contentment. And Councillor Coyle seconded. Okay. So that's agreed, members. Okay. Page 20, page 21, page 22. 22.
Thanks, Chair. Just on page 22, we have a response from the Infrastructure Minister just regarding the request by the Council that flood alleviation measures in Enniskillen will be considered. I suppose the Minister is focused on the very specific nature of the rainfall on that day. And I don't think it's likely from the response, Chair, that there's any specific proposals for Enniskillen in the short term, but it is maybe something that we can include in the discussions next week for clarity.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to note the corresponds. Bit of a strange response. I thought it sort of highlighted the unusual nature of the weather event, and indeed it was very exceptional, the amount of rain that fell on that day, but also recognises that these weather events are more likely to happen in the future. And the expectation is that something like this will indeed happen again. So we're thinking now of prevention. That is what this is about. You know, you're always trying to have something that's going to prevent something happening in the future. So they talk about the silt that was washed up during the storm and blocked the gullies. Understand that's probably what happened, yes, but there's no sort of recognition here about that silt builds up in the gullies over a long period of time if there is no regular cleaning up of the gullies. So I think we need to sort of have that recognised. You know, are the gullies being cleaned regularly enough in Enniskillen? I'm not too sure if they are. So I think that's something that we just need to bear in mind. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor. So we've got Dermot's proposal to note. I would like a seconder to note, if that's possible. John McLaughlin. Okay. Agreed, members. Thank you. Aye, okay. So in relation to the agenda now, we move to item 5, which is paper B, and that's to confirm minutes of the planning committee held on the 16th of July. Okay, Councillor Campbell was in the chair. You have the paper there in front of you, have you?
Yes.
Okay, how many pages is it accuracy? Right. Okay, thank you. True both. We'll go to page 1 for accuracy first. Page 2, page 3, page 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, accuracy, Councillor Campbell.
Just to propose the
Oh,
minutes.
Sorry, I'll come to you shortly. Aye. I'm at page 6 and page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12. I'll go now to Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, proposed, Chairman.
Okay, and Councillor Thompson has seconded. Others were keen too to get in. So that's agreed. And then we'll go to matters arising in respect of this meeting. And again, we'll go through the 12 pages. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's agreed. Thank you very much. Right, okay. That's great. So that would be item 7 on our agenda. So the special planning committee, have you got those papers to hand? Just get why I there that. See them.
Sorry, Chair.
You're all right. Thank you. So special planning committee, paper C in your pack. So page 1 for accuracy, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Again, I'm inclined to go to Councillor Campbell to propose, Chair, and Councillor McLaughlin to second. Thanks very much. And that's agreed. Okay, so matters arising then, page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Okay, that's great. Moving on now. Moving on till item 9. And Alison, I'll go to you because this is about the council powers being delegated to various committees. So if you can take us through 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, please.
Okay, Chair, thank you. Members, the vast majority of the request for council powers relates specifically to the deadlines of the various consultation documents. As you know, quite a lot came out over the summer period. So draft responses are being considered at each of the committees. I would also include, Chair, for Regeneration and Community, the draft response to the anti-poverty strategy as well, please. So we've 2 items for environmental services, 5 in total for Regeneration and Community, 4 in total for policy and resources. And I'd suggest maybe, Chair, separate proposer and seconder for each, please.
Okay. For 9.1.
Yes.
Okay. So Councillor Devine Gallagher has proposed and Councillor Anthony Feedy seconds 9.1. Is that agreed, members? Okay. And then 9.2, Regeneration and Community. Okay, Councillor Stephen Donnelly, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Agreed. And then 9.3, Policy and Resources, Councillor Hayes and Councillor O'Reilly. Thank you. And that's agreed, members. So we move on then to item 10 on our agenda, which is those items of correspondence that haven't yet been dealt with. Okay, Alison.
Thanks, Chair. The first item is notification of the RTPI planning conference, which is next week in the Europa Hotel, 10th of September. And the delegate fee, Chair, for councillors is £50 plus travel costs. So it may be something of interest to members on the planning committee, but we would need nominations this evening as the event is booked out. So, yeah. Thank you.
Go to Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Thomas O'Reilly, and there might be 1 or 2 others, but if I can clarify that before the end of the meeting, hopefully. Is that all right? but definitely Thomas at the
Okay,
minute
by the end of
anyway.
the meeting would be helpful.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Debbie. Okay, thanks very much on that matter. 10.2 has been.
Yeah, no, well, 10.2, Chair, was a response. I appreciate discussed the matter, but this was a response from the First and Deputy First Minister in relation to Council's previous letter. Now, this all predated, obviously, the Maguire's Bridge scenario, our initial letter, and this is the response from the Executive Office.
Okay. Okay, I think Councillor Warrington's going to refer to the previous item. Is that right, Victor? So we'll come back to you in a wee second if it's not about this matter. Okay, so it's about, we're at 10.2. Okay, so looking for comments, just various searches. Aye, okay, proposal to note. Councillor McGrath and Councillor Hayes proposed and seconded to note. Thank you. Councillor Warrington, do you want to go back to?
I'll come back to you shortly.
Right. Just by the end of the meeting, you'll conclude on that. Okay. 10.3.
Mr. Chair, 10.3 are just two items of correspondence from Newry Morning Down District Council about two motions recently adopted by that council. So again, I just would be suggesting they be noted, please, Chair.
Okay, I'd take a proposer to note if we could get one. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly seconded. Thank you very much. 10.4.
It's just a notification from DFI Road Chair regarding the Gorchin Road Improvement Scheme and recognition that there will be a fair bit of disruption as a result of this. So they were keen for us to disseminate it, but for members to disseminate that as well.
Okay, and before I open this up, could I just say this is a major concern for people. Obviously, people accept the need for the road widening scheme in association with developing the Struil campus, etc. But whenever they say that significant disruption is anticipated, is there any liaison that we could have, Alison, as a council regularly, like week on week, with DFI roads in respect to mitigations, in respect to particular problems that may arise on a week-to-week basis? Okay, and I'll maybe ask John Hughes for a comment.
Sorry, Chair, thank you. Just to advise that our staff and the Parks, Estates and Property team are engaging with the contractor and with DFI, and actually they had an update meeting this afternoon, and I think as a result of that there will be certainly further engagement with DFI and with their contractor. Certainly I know that they're talking about some additional work even that was being flagged today and some additional disruptions, so we're following up with them, and I know you're suggesting on a weekly basis, but certainly we'll be following up with them tomorrow on the strength of that meeting this afternoon, and we'll be keeping members advised of any additional information that's forthcoming in that respect.
Okay, I think that's exactly what I would like to have heard. Thank you, John. Okay, I'll go now to Councillor Ovens.
Sorry, Chair, it was my fault. You're just a little bit too quick, but it was just on the item prior. There was a letter I missed, just to declare in the second item on it too, under 10.3.
No problem. Thanks, Mark, for that. Go to Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Well, I welcome comments by our Director John Hughes there with regard to regular meetings with DFI on this.
Yeah.
But I do welcome the press release that they did put out themselves, and we put that out further afield in our social media platforms. So it was very beneficial, and we're getting the DFA road closures and lane closures on a regular basis by this council as well. So that keeps people informed of what's happening, and I know it's going to be a long process. And only other thing I'll say there, I'm glad to see that they're recognising Mountjoy Road as the main piece of the road that they're actually working on. The main Mountjoy Road, Gorton Road, and Old Minefield Road. So leave me comments there, Chair. Thank you.
You're very consistent on that issue, Harold.
I am.
Councillor McColgan.
Thank you, Chair, and agree. I suppose the concerns that I've heard is around the duration of the parade, how long it's going to be, and the disruption with the lane closures, but also the fact that it's going to throw traffic down the Strathroy Road, over the Link Road, and up the Derry Road, and the bypass as well. So it would be good to be getting regular updates, I think, to allay people's concerns.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor McColgan. Okay, so have we proposed and seconded or have there to adopt? No, just a proposer. Councillor McGrath, councillor Thompson, I think, for the adoption of. Okay. Now, moving on then to 10.5.
And just the final letter, Chair, that's a response from the Department of Education regarding the guidance on supporting pupils with medication, which was requested a couple of council meetings ago. So the details are set out within the response.
Okay. And again, there I'll take a proposer to note and second. Councillor Coyle has proposed and Councillor Riley has seconded. So unless I see other takers here, Councillor Coyle.
Chair, I just want to, not on this issue, I just want to confirm that Councillor Divine Gallagher will attend the planning conference as well, but there's no times on it, either on the letter or the email. So if somebody can just get back to Thomas and Roshin to confirm the times of it, please.
Thanks very much. Okay, now, we're at the section of the meeting now, which is other, but there isn't other.
No other.
No, not at this point. And 11, any urgent and relevant business. So what I do now is I turn to those members who wrote to me or spoke to me in advance about something specific they would like to raise. Okay, I think I'll go to Councillor McLaughlin first. Try and get John in here.
Thank you, Chair. For those that aren't aware, the Women's Rugby World Cup started 2 weeks ago, and prior to that, from this district and my own personal club, Enniskillen Rugby Club, were selected to join with the Women's Rugby World Cup partners, which is Land Rover Defender, to take part in their advertisements. So those are going out on a global base to 20 odd countries. Every time a match is shown, the advertisements are shown, and it involves Enniskillen Rugby Club. And obviously there was a moratorium on that. The chief executive and the directors knew that this was happening. Director John Hughes was the one who was principally involved, and I put him in touch with the company that made the advertisement, and the staff within his department worked closely with them and facilitated them exceptionally well, because these people came from Tunisia, where they were filming with Land Rover, and then 40 odd people stayed in the district for 4 days, filmed and worked with our own staff on our own property, council property that is, and also with the geopark. But where it all fell down is where council property and geopark property meets DAERA property. And the director had a vision, and when they contacted the man from DAERA, or the lady from DAERA, they said no, it would take 2 weeks before they could make a decision. Now, this is our district going out. The advertisement, if anybody wants to see it and they haven't seen it, if you search, Google Emily Valentine Tribute Defender, that'll bring it up. It's 30 seconds. It's a young girl, Amy Nelson, plays. She's a player at Enniskillen Rugby Club, and her and her family, all the other stars and their families, and the adults that took part are all going to the final guests of Defender. So that's something nice for them to take part in as well. But they filmed the Land Rovers all around Fermanagh, and that's our county being put out across a global platform. And for DAERA to be pernickety over basically flying a drone, as I understand, over 20 metres. And I know that John's staff did their best to try and negotiate with them, and they didn't make any headway. So on the back of that, as well as congratulating the rugby club for having taken part in this ad and recommending everybody to have a look at it, because the BBC are the main company showing it in the UK, and they don't do ads. But if you watch it in any other jurisdiction, you will see these ads. But I'm proposing that we try and seek DAERA to come to some moratorium where our ground, the geopark, where they combine, that we can have a better way of making decisions, because these people travelled, these are top end. There was 40 odd people in the production company. There was people from Land Rover that brought over the Defenders, the technical team, and also there was senior management, and this is from a major manufacturing company who came over as well to see the production, because this is how important they felt it was. So they were in our district, and to have DAERA to be the main part of our government trailing their feet. And they did commend the council staff on how well they'd done. So congratulations to the council staff, and can we maybe contact DAERA to see if we can come to some sort of method of understanding if the insurance and the assurances that they were able to give our staff were good enough. I don't know how they weren't good enough for DAERA. And the other thing was the chance was there. If that spoiled something, that could be the global shot that brings, puts us on a stage. But there is much more footage coming out this last few days, and there's more and more. There's a lot of footage filmed. So watch this space. There's more stuff appearing.
Thank you, John. And I just need a seconder for that. Okay, Eddie, Councillor Roof. And I don't need second contributors necessarily in the or any urgent and relevant business. Better if we have the person that requested it and then a seconder if there's an action point in it. So latitude will not be forthcoming. Okay, but John did well there. Thanks, John. You're proud of it, but you have an action point coming from it. That's very good. And that was seconded and agreed. Now, I'm going to go to Councillor Nolene Hayes next. And this topic is changing places, facilities, and toilets and facilities. Over to you, Nolene.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we recently had a meeting, Councillor McLaughlin, yourself, and Thomas O'Reilly, and some of the access and inclusion officer with Shelley Cowan. If you don't know her, she's quite an inspirational, passionate campaigner for disability access. And she came to us to raise awareness of these changing places, toilet facilities. Now, they're not just the ordinary disabled toilet. The changing places facility would include a height adjustable changing bench, a full room hoist, space for 2 carers, and a privacy screen by an accessible shower and toilet. Now there is one in our OMA leisure complex. I believe there's going to be one in the new Enniskillen, replacing the Forum. But there is, apart from that, there's only 3 in Enniskillen, one at Tesco, one at in the Castle Museum, and one at SWA. And obviously, apart from SWA, they're all closed in the evening. So Shelley wanted to raise this awareness that this is actually excluding an awful lot of our disabled residents and visitors from, we can imagine if you have to hold, you can't go to the toilet for miles and miles and miles if you need 2 carers, a hoist and everything to do so. She had asked for a commitment from the council to try and expand the facilities ourselves. I know that's obviously going to be a big ask, but for the moment, I would like to see a couple of things if we could do. One, could we look at possibly hiring a portable change of places facility for, large council events and things like that, that would enable more people to be able to attend? And also, could we, in our literature and website, for example, and advertising, could we look at a mapping and signposting exercise? So if we don't have the facility ourselves, we could map and signpost people to the facilities at the moment. There has one just been opened at the Share Centre in Listenskey, which we visited, which is, it's a very small room, but it makes a huge difference to, people being able to go and do activities and be and not be stuck at home and worrying about the very basic need of going to the toilet. Yeah, I would like to look, obviously at the bigger picture in the future of maybe looking at new facilities if possible. But for now, that's my 2 proposals. Okay. Because, if we're going to be completely inclusive, she mentioned a figure of 52,000 people in the north would need these facilities. So if we're looking at residents and visitors and tourism and all that sort of thing, I think that could be 2 points we could start with, and then look at possibly the bigger picture of having more facilities later on.
So Noreen, that's consistent with your role as diversity ambassador.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Of course. And I was grateful for the participation of Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor O'Reilly in that meeting as well, but also Joanne Campbell, our Access and Inclusion Officer.
That's right.
And I think it's in her mind and in her directorate's mind to bring forward, you know, a report or correspondence on this, perhaps in October. But I'm going to ask Alison for comments.
Chair, no, that's fine. I was just going to maybe make a suggestion. I think the proposals are clear. The council, it's actually not dissimilar to what Councillor Hayes has set out around our own provision, where we would be developing new facilities, that we would make a presumption of inclusion around changing places facilities, and where we have scope in the context of refurbishment, that we would make similar commitments. So I was just going to suggest, Chair, wasn't aware of the report commitment, that we would bring that detail back, what we have, what we've done, and then the mapping arrangements, I know, is something that certainly we have had some previous discussions with colleagues on as well. In relation to the hiring of the temporary facilities, I know that has worked, but I also know in other instances where it's been problematic. So there are some terrains, I suppose, and events and geographies that lend themselves, and others less so. And that's not to be prescriptive about it, but I think we could include that within the report, and I fully understand the spirit of the proposals and the suggestions that have come forward.
That's great, thank you.
And I take your interest, John, as second in that. Thanks very much, John. Okay. Jill, did you want to add anything, Jill Cush?
Yes, we have, as part of our Equality and Diversity Action Plan, a commitment to look at a changing place policy for the district. So all those points that you mentioned will be incorporated into that. In terms of mapping, there are very good online tools for mapping. So we probably will be looking at promoting those tools more widely, ensuring they're accurate, and keeping a regular check on that. We do that, but promoting those more widely or whatever, because as you say, they're very important. And whether we always need more and more of these, in terms of certainly the main towns, you know, there are a number of facilities, and it would come up through our Access and Inclusion Advisory Group. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jill. And I said I wouldn't open it up. Okay, you have one sentence, Victor.
Just obviously, as somebody who suffers from a disability, I think the suggestion certainly of putting in a temporary one that can be used at events is very, very good, because it is an important part for a person with disability to be able to use that sort of facility. And just when I'm on it, obviously the disabled toilet in Enniskillen, I know, was severely vandalised there very recently. So I'm not sure if that has progressed back in to being sorted out again, but just wanted to bring that in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And obviously there'd be feedback on that report. Aye. Okay, thank you. Now, I think I'll go to Councillor Thompson next for his item of any other urgent and relevant business.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, and thank you for indulging me. First of all, can I request a chair's reception for Omagh Rotary Club? As you know, Chair, this is to mark the 70th anniversary in this year, 2025. And I would request that this be held before the end of the calendar year. Omagh Rotary Club works tirelessly for the benefit of communities and charities in Omagh area, as well as nationally and internationally. And they've been doing this all over the years from 1955. So I would like to request a chair's reception before the end of this calendar year for Omagh Rotary Club to mark the 70th anniversary. And if it needs proposed, I'll propose that.
Okay, thanks. And
thanks, Chair.
I think you'll be submitting paperwork.
I'll be submitting the paperwork.
Just get a second to that for the record. Okay, Councillor Hawkes here to my left has seconded that, and that's agreed, members. I'm going to go to two other councillors. One who's, I think, suggesting appropriate recognition for two young sporting achievers, and another chair's reception request as well. So we'll go to Councillor Feely first, Anthony.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you're right, Barry. I'd like to congratulate two young fellas from Garrison, Shea Murphy and Caden Doherty, that took part in the fishing competition over there in Scotland, and they won it. And I'm very proud of me Garrison. It's a big industry around Garrison fishing. A lot of people comes to fishing. So I think we should either have a chair's reception, maybe Barry, or a Young Achievers Award. I'll chat yourself for Jill later on, and just wanted to mention them here tonight. Thank you, Barrett.
Thank you, Councillor Feely. I'll go now to Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to request a chair's reception for the Brookborough Ladies Heber McMahon's Club, who are 25 years or celebrating 25 years this year from their formation. So if that could be accommodated.
Okay, we'll look into that as well. Thank you. And I think of two others. I'll come to you last, Dermot. I have a letter from Roy, from Councillor Crawford, who apologises for not being here this evening. So he wrote to me, and he and I both attended this event yesterday in Enniskillen, and be very well known to Enniskillen town councillors and Fermanagh councillors, not least, would be Headhunters Barber Shop and Railway Museum. Achieved a major award yesterday. Outstanding achievement, and been crowned the overall winner. So this was for England, Scotland, Wales, and this region, the north. Others might call it a different name, but this was for Love Your High Street Awards 2025, and an adjudication panel travelled over from England, and there was a fine event yesterday. Both myself and Councillor Crawford were in the queue to have our haircut, right, at the Barbers Museum. But what a fantastic museum, you know, the railway heritage of Enniskillen being highlighted in such a quality way. And other councillors will know the people involved far better than me. But the Johnson brothers, Nigel and Gordon and Selwyn. Selwyn was like a ceremonial man on the day, and the brothers have worked there for 40 years, them boys, and fantastic event. And we retreated to the Jolly Sandwich then for celebrations, as you would. How come you weren't notified of that one, Shirley? And so that's that. Roy wants me to write, obviously, accordingly, but I just want to add his name to that, you know, that he made that request. And finally, I'll go to Councillor Brown for his item of urgent and relevant business.
Thank you, Chair. And just I think it's appropriate now that because we're approaching the 2-year anniversary of the beginning of the genocide in Gaza, I think it's well worth mentioning. And it really does feel like we're living in a dystopian reality at the minute. The past 2 years, Israeli bombs and bullets have rained down on the people of Gaza, killing scores every single day. The official death count has now surpassed 63,000, with more than 500 confirmed deaths this week alone. However, the true figure is likely to be many times higher than this, as there are countless bodies buried beneath rubble. On top of that, Israel is now enacting a policy of forced starvation on the people of Gaza by preventing vital aid from reaching the area. We have all seen the images of the starving children with their skeletons protruding because of a lack of food. The Israeli government is now talking about ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from Gaza completely and transforming the area into a Mediterranean Riviera where they can resettle the land with Israeli citizens. Just in the last few days, the Prime Minister of Yemen was assassinated by the Israeli military along with a lot of his cabinet colleagues. And yet the world watches on and Israel continues to act with total impunity. Israel has thwarted every attempt at a permanent ceasefire from day one. Netanyahu knows full well that the minute the conflict ceases, he'll be thrown in a jail cell for the rest of his life. I find it particularly sickening to see some of our world leaders and indeed some of our local politicians here in the north defending the actions of Israel. These are people who claim to believe in human rights, democracy and freedom, but it's as if they don't actually view the Palestinians as human beings at all. But the tide is turning. Public opinion has shifted dramatically in the last number of months against Israel. Most of the world's nations now recognise a Palestinian state, and just today I read that Belgium will join the likes of Britain, France and Canada in recognising Palestine. This is because the politicians can no longer ignore the demands of the people to take firm actions against the state of Israel. In the last week, it was announced that Israeli war bonds will no longer be sold through the Irish Central Bank. And I want to commend Sinn Féin's Pearse Doherty for pursuing that issue. I also want to commend the thousands of activists who are taking part in the Samud Global Flotilla, which includes the likes of Greta Thunberg, Liam Cunningham, and the Sinn Féin TD Chris Andrews, and their aim is to break the siege of Gaza and deliver aid to the to the people.
Have you any action points in
Yep,
your
the action
proposal?
point now coming, Chair, and that is because on Saturday it is the Global Day of Action for Gaza, and where millions of people all around the world will stand in solidarity with the Palestinians, and many people here in Fermanagh and Omagh will also stand in solidarity. So my proposal, Chair, would be to have the council buildings lit up in support of the Global Day of Action for Gaza, if that's possible. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coyle, no elaboration.
No, I'm not going to, but I just want to second that proposal. Thank you.
Now, I can either anticipate the agreement of everybody in the room, or it would be put to a vote. That's the way it is. So can I anticipate that members agree with the proposal? Okay, agreed. Okay, thank you. So in relation to the next part of the meeting, we move into. Okay, you have another item of AOB. That's
Sorry,
okay.
Chair, just really to update members. Chair, in December of last year, the council had agreed to accept the invitation from Huangshi for a delegation. The agreement was that the chair of the council and a delegation would accept the an invitation to return to Huangshi. Following, have engaged with the various parties, and the proposal, Chair, is that the chair and vice chair would form the delegation. So if members are content, we would proceed on that basis.
And there would be an officer?
An officer attending.
Okay.
Approximately 5 nights, Chair.
Okay. I'll go now to Councillor Coyle.
Yeah, just to propose that, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
I'll second that proposal, Chair.
Okay. No other commentaries. So that's agreed, members. So we're going to go into confidential. Aye. So we need a proposal. Is that Councillor Campbell and Councillor Devine Gallagher to go into confidential for part 2 of the meeting? And proposed and seconded to come out of confidential. And then what we do is we ask the chief executive to give us a summary of what happened in confidential matters. Whenever Adam gives us the nod that we're ready to go. Ready to go, thank you. Go over to Alison now.
Thank you, Chair. While in committee, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 24th of July. There were no matters arising. The Council considered a confidential report on waste contracts and agreed with the recommendations, and considered noted confidential correspondence from the Northern Ireland Environment Agency. Also received an update, Chair, in relation to a recent appeal and associated legal advice in relation to that.
Okay, thanks very much. So our meeting now.
Just a summary.
Okay, for a summary then that we just heard, I would take a proposer and a seconder to note. Councillor Campbell has proposed and Councillor Barton seconds the summary. So we'll end the meeting now at 2220 hours. Meeting is ended. It's good. How do you get out of this town?